I own 15 houses in this area. Used to be a rough area actually, but it's come up. I own a couple on this road, that one there. Just bought this one here.
His rental business has been so successful that he's now worth over £4.5 million.
Sometimes when I go and get rent, I'll stuff it all in here and then grab it out and I'll go shopping or go and spend it on a night out. Tenants are happy, I'm happy, obviously. And yeah, it's been good. Guys, guess which properties, these are just some of my properties in my portfolio, my old office. Guess which properties make the most? If you can't guess, it's the HMOs. They've literally changed my life. In this video, I'm going to explain why I prefer and I try to only buy HMOs. Just before I start, I had a call with a client who onboarded, who watched the video last week and who onboarded. And he seemed to be doing everything right. He had sourced a HMO. It was going to make 500 a room times 6 rooms, basically an additional salary. And I was trying to really get it to the bottom of the deal. It wasn't in my preferred area, but it's still a good area. We ran through the numbers, all good. And I said to him, so is your limited company set up? And he said, huh? What limited company? He said, I'm buying it in my own name. He said, he won't take me over the threshold. I said, who's told you that? He said, his broker. I said, you do realise that a HMO is a job and the salary or the income you make from HMO is equivalent to a salary from a job. It's over 2k a month. And he said, yeah, I'm working. I said, well, add them together and it's like having 2 jobs, isn't it? He goes, yeah, but I'm going to leave one job. I said, yeah, but you're going to buy another HMO because he's just starting out. He said, yeah. So that's how much HMOs can make. They actually can change your life because you don't need to work anymore. They are an employer. This is so different to a normal property where it may not be, it's still, in my opinion, beneficial, but it may not be for everyone beneficial to buy a single let that makes £300 a month on a limited company. But going back to that conversation, that one call he had with me, even though he knew how to source properties, he had a contact in the local estate agents getting him deals. That one call he had from me, probably, he said in his own words, saved him thousands. And he was a typical tight landlord driving an old car, etc, etc. So it just shows that it's worth sometimes taking that advice. The advice I give is because I've been there. I know what HMOs can do. I know it will change your life, but I also know it's going to bring you loads of money and your main problem is going to be how to allocate the funds. It's not actually going to be making the money with HMOs. It's how to manage the property and how to allocate the funds that you're making. And that's just testament to how HMOs can change your life. You'll never have a problem with money with HMOs. So let's get into it, guys. Now, just going back to that again, I've got some single lets here and over there. I worked it out, it would take once, and the single lets are rented social housing. It's not like I get £600 a month for them. I get good money for them, like over £1,000 rent. It would take 3 single lets to replace 1 HMO on average in my portfolio. 3 single lets to replace 1 HMO. So effectively, I need 3 times the amount of properties. That's almost 90, 16, over 100 properties I would need single lets. More management, more voids. Could I even have bought 100 properties in that time frame, even if they were all money out? Dealing with 100 families, if I'm renting them to families, 100 houses, social housing, but then you're relying on one provider. If one family doesn't pay the rent, and it sometimes happens, you reference a good tenant, they have a family, then they lose a job or they have a breakup, you're in court. Guys, it's so risky. And I don't even think I could have bought 100 houses, let's be honest, and got that many deals. 100 boilers, 100 roofs, okay? With a HMO, yes, you're paying a bit more. And some of them I haven't paid more, to be honest. I've done your mini-mos where I bought a house that could be rented to a family and I've turned it into a 4-bed. I've done a reception room downstairs, 3 bedrooms upstairs, and I've done a 4-bed mini HMO, £500-600 a room. That's fine for me, okay? Not a massive conversion cost, because again, I couldn't fund 30 conversions, 30 HMOs, 30 back to brick conversions that cost £70,000. It's not worth it. I just wanted volume. That volume's changed my life, guys. I make over 50k a month net on a bad month, and that's majority because I've got HMOs. I've got HMOs that make over £3,500 per month from one property. Yes, so bought a while ago, cheaper, etc. But they're not the nicest HMO guys. They're not like all en suite, all brand new, latest design, boutique HMOs, which everyone puts on social media. They're just basic 5-6 bedroom houses, which I bought, converted the attic, converted 2 rooms downstairs and made it HMO back in the day. £3,500 a month. That's the same as it. Some businesses don't make that with all the overheads. One of my mates owns Subways, and one of his Subways doesn't make that after all the overheads clear net for him a month. So I've effectively got 30 small businesses making, they don't all make that. Some of them make, the worst ones make 1,000, but they're like the 3-bedroom ones. Some of them make 15. On average, I make about 2. That's after mortgage, after bills, after the £30 internet, etc., etc. So when I say one of these, like the client who rang me, one of these, and I didn't source that property for him, by the way, so there are deals, right? So one of these is the same as a salary. You buy 5 of them, you're living location freedom, financially free, and you don't even have to work, and that's what can change your life. Now, yes, you can do it with single lets. As I said, you need a lot more. Is it feasible in 5 years to do that many single lets? Probably not. So that's the first issue. The first reason why I buy HMOs is the money. Let's be honest, we're all here for the money. Yes, we like to house people. Yes, I like to teach people, but we're here effectively for the money. So I can go on holiday anytime and still get rental income. So can you if you own a HMO or you own multiple. And guys, once you own one, you buy 2 or you buy 3, you're set really. That's where you start getting your 10k a month, etc. Second of all, guys, and this is really, really important in today's market and with the renters' rights and the reforms that are coming in, is it's reduced risk. With a HMO, you won't have a family who suddenly squat on your property without paying, because remember, you've got 4 individual or 5 or 6 individual tenants. A HMO is 2 or more unrelated units. Okay, so they're not independent. They're not dependent on each other. They might be friends, but financially they're interdependent and not related, etc. They're not in a couple. And what that means is, guys, if one person loses their job in the house and you've got 5 people in a HMO, you're still getting 4 rents. You're still making, you might not be making 2k a month or 3.5. You might drop that might drop to 3k. Might drop. If you're making 1,500, you might drop to £1,000 after all bills, but you're still making money. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. And a lot of people do lose money with single lets. I've lost money with single lets on a month by month basis when I've had to evict and it takes 6 months to evict. It's going to get even harder with renters' rights. So it reduces the risk massively. You're not going to get tenants. Typically, an average tenant in this HMO, yes, I've had tenants who stay 5 years, they just don't like to move, but every time I put the rent up, they paid it. But usually they stay 6 months to a year. And what that means is you can reset the rent. And rent's going up massively all over, especially in the northwest where we're buying, but all over the country. And with a single let, you can't just ring up the family a year later and go, right, the rent is this, it's double or 25% more, you have to move. It doesn't work like that. Whereas if you've got a vacant room, when it goes back on the market, and I've just got one in Warrington, the one that I talked about in the last video where it was under rented. One of the guys has just left. He gave notice before I bought it actually. That's going on for £950 now. And it's not going to impact the tenant because the tenant's left. It's a new tenant now, so I can reset it at market rates. So you can always do that. So you reduce the risk massively. You're not dependent on one family, one relationship, etc., etc. So it reduces the risk massively in that regard. You can still get access to your property, guys. You can still go into the communal areas. I've got clients who don't do HMOs who've not been able to go into the property for 2 years. Oh, sorry, not 2 years, but 18 months, right? Because of an eviction and it's been delayed and adjourned, etc. You never lose control of HMO because you can always go into the communal areas. As I said, it's like a mini business. So that just gives you peace of mind that you're never it's your asset. And even if a tenant is, I've had HMOs where tenants have fallen out with them and I've gone to the extreme, and I can get quite bullish on the phone because I built this property since built this business since I was 19. So it's really personal to me, even though it shouldn't be. So I've had arguments with tenants. I've still gone to the properties and nothing's happened because I've got another 3-4 tenants, and they just understand that it's part of the game. So if you can't do that with families, you've got to be very, very careful. So it reduces risk massively. That renters' right next year. Guys, I'd be scared if I was doing single lets, and I've actually given most of my single lets to social housing, and the ones where I can change them into the non-Article 4 areas, where I can change them into HMOs, I am, even if I'm getting 3 or 4. For example, I've written it down here. One of my properties is £800 a month for a single let. As a 3-bed, it will get £550 a month. That's over £1,500. And guys are saying, some of my friends are going like, yeah, we only do 6-bed HMOs because of the bills. Well, the bills are proportionally less if you've got 3 people. Yes, you're paying the same for the internet, etc. But the usage is going to be less for the gas and electric. And also the risk is less. So I don't mind if I come out with £200-300 more by turning it into HMO, because I'm not spending thousands and thousands. I'm putting fire doors and interlinked smoke alarms to make it HMO. So that's the way I'm seeing the game, guys. And as I said, it's done me so well, HMOs, and it's been one of the reasons why I've been able to leave my shitty jobs, which I had, working in call centres, doing delivery driving, and travel the world. Because once I had 5 HMOs, and now I am greedy, and I've got like over 30, and obviously when's enough, and you always increase your spending, but 5 HMOs was enough for me to go and live. I was on about 7k a month from 5 HMOs, so, you know, to go and travel, etc. It was 5 HMOs, and that was, you can still get it. You can still get HMOs for 150k. We're finding them quite often, so that's what I'd say. There's less competition, guys. Article 4 is going in soon enough. I'd probably say in the next 3 years, the way the Labour government's going, Article 4 will be in every place in the UK. And what that means is you won't be able to do HMOs, but the existing HMOs, or you can buy existing HMOs, will still be you'll still be able to run them. What that means is the existing HMOs will shoot up in value, which always has happened. Why I bought in Salford, for example, Article 4 HMOs now I can get a commercial valuation on 5-bed, and they're worth a lot more because of Article 4. But also, crucially, it's not about the value, because I'm not cashing in. Less competition. There's 21 households for each property at the moment. I've just researched on Landbay. They've released some research. 21 families fighting for one property. That doesn't include HMOs. So imagine when we put a room on, it goes within a week. Because there's less HMOs and the cost of living's going up and people are not owning properties now, the average age of property ownership is like 34, 36, first-time buyers. A lot of people want HMOs, especially in the bigger towns like Manchester, Liverpool, etc. But even in the towns where you wouldn't expect it. I mean, my client was telling me about Wales, and I don't like Wales as a place, but he was saying the demand's crazy. I said, I agree, because there's no stock. But what it means is there's less competition, there's less HMOs now because of Article 4. And the quicker you buy these HMOs, the more you'll benefit, because this is, believe me, this is coming in everywhere. The government don't like people, they don't like HMOs because it makes landlords a lot of money. And effectively, a tenant is paying £700 a room, £600 a room, where they think they can get the government think, well, they should be renting a house. Well, it doesn't work like that, does it? Because a house is not £600 a month anymore. And even if it was, how does the government think people pay bills? But obviously they don't care. As I said before, the Labour government don't care if the poorer get poorer, as long as the richer get poorer. So guys, less competition means there's less HMOs, there's more demand for the rooms. It's just easier. And okay, when I started HMOs, you probably did have to buy in a Manchester, a university town, for example. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think anywhere in the UK, you'll fill a HMO. I've got a client/friend who has HMOs in a very working mining town in the north of Yorkshire, and it's full, and it's a 6-bed HMO. So that just shows you. So you've got to reduce risk. You've got every HMO is a mini business. And I think that it should be run like a business. So where people go wrong is they go, oh, I don't want HMOs, a headache. I can't, like, the headache is 5 people. I can't manage it. Yeah, but you're getting 5 times as much rent sometimes. Management of a HMO is so important. There's rules and regulations, but for your own business, management is so important. This is why I have a file like this. I'll put everything to do with the HMO in here, and it gets closed and I move on to the next one. I have one internet provider, I have the boiler insured for £20 a month, so if that ever goes, I get a new one. I've got internet, and I've got bills on top-up meter, so they use less, right? So that I don't even have any bills. Obviously, it comes off their rent. That's it. That's the management. And if the room's empty, 1 month notice, it goes automatically via WhatsApp to an agent, and the agent fills it, and the whole thing starts again. They never come empty at the same time, guys, right? So that's one thing you need to know as well. You'll never have a void. You'll never have a fully empty property unless a group moved in together like a student let, but then it's pre-filled next year anyway. That's management of HMOs. That's it. That's it, literally. If you start getting involved in WhatsApp groups going, who's nicked this from the fridge, can you tell them not to use my milk, etc., etc., that's when it becomes a headache, but you don't need to. And I self-manage. You don't have to self-manage. There's enough juice, there's enough meat on the bone in HMOs where you can afford if a boiler goes, you can afford to do British Gas home care cover for landlords, which I do. You can afford to have a nice fibre optic broadband. You can afford like maintenance. There's so much profit in the HMO that it doesn't really faze you. And where the mortgage rates went up in the last couple of years, it's never, people have gone, even my mum was like, you're struggling now because the mortgage has gone up like 100 quid, 200 quid. Well, the rent's gone up times 100 quid times 4 rooms. I'm actually better off. It's crazy, HMOs, right? Again, single lets, the rent doesn't just go up. You have to wait for them to leave. If they leave, there might be kids at school that might be there for 5 years, the mortgage rates goes up. You can't just go, I want another 100 quid or 200 quid a month. It's not going to happen. So guys, management. Now, guys, just give the management away. Don't be a tight landlord. Give it away to 10%. It's 10% of the rent. If you're making £3,500 a month and you give 350 quid a month away and you've got a full-time job, some of my clients are doctors, etc., so be it. You never hear from me. You just get the money in your account minus 350. You never hear from the HMO. It's just literally a business. Imagine if you had a business, like I referred to earlier, Subway. You've got staff, you've got overheads, you've got weekly accounts, you've got suppliers to deal with, you've got everything to deal with for that. And landlords are like, well, I don't want a headache of that, and I have to ring up the agents sometimes. Come on, guys. Like, there's no such thing as money for nothing. Like, you might have to do an hour's work a week on a HMO. I do with my portfolio, and a lot of people are asking me about this, how much work do I do in my portfolio? Managing the portfolio, I would say I do a full day's work every 2 weeks. A full day's work every 2 weeks. That's just bills, checking my rents, doing some maintenance on WhatsApp, etc., etc. Probably so every week, full day's work, 1 day. It's usually like a Sunday, right? That's it. That doesn't include finding other properties for clients, finding properties for myself, etc. This is just purely management of my HMOs. If I add it all up, obviously it doesn't all come in on 1 day, but 1 day a week, 9 to 5. So 1 day a week, 9 to 5 for over 50k a month is pretty good. It's a pretty good job, I'd say. But seriously, guys, if you've got 2 HMOs and you're making 4k a month, that's not going to be a full day's work, is it? It's going to be like, you might have to do 2 hours on a Sunday just to make sure it's all ticking. But always do it, guys. Don't take you can do nothing, but you're not going to have the most optimized portfolio, especially in this day and age. I think you take an hour on a Sunday and just review your rents, anything for sale in the area, anything you could improve, maybe look at new broadband deals, maybe review the spending this is really like minute details, but these small improvements will make your portfolio go a lot more profitable, especially if you've got more than one property. And if you don't have more than one property, you'll get there faster by doing this. Don't just forget about it. Search a market for rent. If your rent's significantly lower, start planning. All these little tweaks help. And if you don't have the time or you don't want to do it yourself, it's one of the things I always include as part of my mentoring anyway. And guys, if you want to know what we're buying, how we're buying, etc., free property investment guide, yes, in the comments below. So these are the main reasons why I still buy HMOs. Now, do I buy single lets? Yes. Would you ask me, would I buy single let if it's all money out? Yes, and I've done one this year, all money out and 8k back. Do you know what the problem is with that though? If you're starting a portfolio or you're not really in my position, is if I had 10 all money out deals as a single lets, which potentially is possible in the right areas, the single let that I did all money out and I got probably about 8k back because it was sold in the market value from auction, makes £290, £300 a month. And I feel bad putting the rent up because I've already put the rent up once and it's a single mum and potentially could go up again, but only by 50 quid really. And that's the market rent anyway. I need 10 of those to make £3 a month. 10 of them. If I could even find them, all money out, which I don't think you'll find 10, but let's say I could. 10 of those make £3 a month. One of my HMOs makes £3 a month. Do you see where I'm coming from? Yes, you might have loads of property and you got all your money out, but if you're only making 300 quid a month and you're trying to become financially free and leave your job, which most people who contact me are, it's not really going to work. So, and most people who contact me have got, obviously they're not stupid, they know that you need initial investment to buy a HMO, whether it be 25, 30, 50k. But are you better off buying a few good HMOs, letting it appreciate, remortgaging and going again? Or are you better off trying to find 10 all money out deals which make 300 quid a month? HMOs, I wouldn't be in the position I am today without HMOs. Even if I had 100 single lets. This is what I believe. And remember guys, one HMO is one boiler. 3 single lets is 3 boilers. Something statistically is going to go wrong the more boilers you have, right? The more roofs you have, the more tenants you have, the more family tenants. Now, obviously you're going to have more tenants if it's HMO, but I'm talking about each property tenants, right? HMO tenants are not difficult to deal with. They're mostly in the early stages of life, 20, 30s. They're going to move on. They're not really problematic. They usually have a job. They're usually saving or moving around or coming to the country to work, come to the city to work or study. They're not going to be there in 10 years with 2 kids in the same room. It's not going to happen, is it? So that's what I like, guys. I love HMOs. I think the management is hard, but if you get it right and you replicate the same system, you literally do the same again and again and again. Now, another thing about HMOs is you can, and a game changer I found this year is social housing. They actually pay a lot more for HMOs. I'm just sorting out a deal for a client now where he's going to get £500, I think it's £400 or £500 a room, I can't remember exactly, for a HMO in an area where that's probably the market rent, guaranteed for 3 or 5 years. So imagine doing social housing and getting an HMO rate. You're winning on both fronts. You don't have any maintenance. You don't have any voids, which you wouldn't really have on HMOs anyway, but for example, and that you're getting a HMO rate. So it double bubble there. So, and what I've started to do is give HMOs to social housing and get the same rents I'm getting, maybe it's slightly bit less, but have literally that cash flow for 5 years without any maintenance or management. So it takes away, the only 2 negatives of HMOs was management and maintenance, because obviously 5 people using the showers, right? Which sometimes, I mean, I've gone through a bad year 2 years ago where I had loads of maintenance. This year I've had hardly any, like less than 5k probably. So, but it takes it away because they're dealing with the maintenance. So that just shows a demand for HMOs. Why do they pay more for HMOs? Because they can house 5 more vulnerable people, whereas a family let, they could only house 1 vulnerable person or 1 vulnerable family. So it actually makes sense. It's like a mini hotel, a HMO, and they get hotel rates. To be honest, if you give a HMO to a social housing provider and temporary accommodation, there's a good chance you're getting not £80 a night, £100 a night per room, but they're getting hotel rates and the cheapest hotel rates, because it is basically like a mini hotel, especially if you've got an ensuite, etc. And guys, with the HMOs now, I'm pivoting towards ensuites and making them even more self-contained, because I think the market's going that way, and I can see that the demand for those type of rooms, even though the price is more expensive, we let them a lot quicker. So we're going around where we can each one, and we're trying to put in the en-suites, not the cooking facilities, but the en-suites. There's a lot of fear about council tax bills per room. Nonsense. I told people from the start, that's basically gone away now. So that's what stopped people doing that, but that's gone away. I predicted that a long time ago. The other thing is, guys, and going back to the client call, is so he contacted me and he said, look, how am I going to move from one HMO, which I'm spending 50 to 60k my deposit on? Yes, it's going to make grands a month for me, but how am I going to get my second one? I said to him, well, you can get a commercial valuation on it if it's in an Article 4 area, which he is buying an existing one, as a 6-bed ensuite. And it's not ensuite at the moment. So why don't you just bang in ensuites, put the rent up and get a commercial reval for about 380. I think he's getting it for 215. Use that money and buy another one and do exactly the same thing. And that's what he's going to do, guys. That was one call. But that's what you can do with HMOs. You can get a commercial revaluation if you're buying in Article 4 areas or buying before it's Article 4, such as Warrington or Northwest. Wait till it becomes Article 4. Make sure it's got en suite, 6 bedrooms. And then remortgage it on a commercial basis, because it's basically a commercial business. That's the way the banks see it. HMOs as well. So some of these HMOs have only got 3 bedrooms. I can put a 4th one in, even though it's Article 4 now. So I can always increase my income, but sometimes it's a balance of, do I spend the money here, or do I use that money and buy another HMO in a new area where it's not Article 4? And sometimes it's more efficient to spend that money somewhere else, where you're not going to get a commercial value on a 4-bed, but I could buy another 5-bed and add a room, for example. So that's where you are with HMOs. But absolutely, guys, any property person who says, I don't buy HMOs, and I've seen a few comments on other people's YouTubes, I don't think they're taking it seriously as a business. And if you're in property now, you need to be in property to make loads of money and become financially free, not to just park 30 grand, which you got as a bonus, or 30 grand instead of your pension. Because as I said in previous videos, there's no point having 2 or 3 properties now and not taking it seriously, because the legislation, the tax, etc., the stamp duty is just going to eat into the profits. You need highly profitable properties to do well in property now. And I would even say that you don't even need to diversify too much. Just concentrate and get as much rent as you can from these properties, and then you'll build your portfolio and become financially free. And that's exactly what I did. Now, have I bought single lets? Yes. Do I make money from single lets? Yes. Have I sourced a single let for a client recently and told him that's the best for him? Yes. Why? Because that single let that I've sourced for him is £73,000, and he's going to make £1,000 a month from it in the rent before the mortgage. But the mortgage won't be a lot, because he's putting the 14 grand deposit, so the mortgage will be a couple of hundred, if that. I've got a HMO opposite that, and it was all money out, but that only has a free rooms on it. So sometimes, not always, but sometimes it is better if you've got a limited part. Here's 21, he's got a limited part and he wants to get rid of it, he made it in crypto, to get a high rental single let. But again, it comes down to your sourcing. If he's making £300, it's not worth it. So that's the way I see it, guys. Now, I've gone through all of this and I've told you 3 houses equals 1 HMO, and that's the rule you need to stick by. Is it worth making HMOs? Yes, but not spending 70, 80 grand on it and hoping for a good revaluation. What I would do is buy a property, make it into HMO the cheapest way possible, but obviously being compliant, get it out to social housing and get on to the next one. That's it. And if you can't remortgage it straight away, if you're buying through us, you'll probably be below market value if we're sourcing it anyway. But if you're not, you'll be able to come back in 2 years, but you'll also be getting that high rent. So that's another thing to consider. But I never tell people to spend 100 grand on a HMO, make it all nice, and then hopefully get a remortgage. Because again, you spent 100 grand of your own money hoping for a revaluation, where you could have used that 100 grand to buy another 2. And you might not even get that revaluation. And then is it worth it? Because as I said to you, someone's got to buy it off you one day. Now, in a high growth city or in the Northwest, yes, it's worth it because the prices are going up all the time. In a little village in Wales, it's probably an artificial valuation. So just bear that in mind, guys. My plan for next year, I'm buying more HMOs. I'm buying little properties that can make mini HMOs. I think they're amazing. You have even less tenants to deal with, but you're still making 3 or 4 times the rent. You don't always have to have a 6-bed HMO. Remember, guys, 5-bed HMO is mandatory licensing, which means you need to get a mandatory HMO license and you need to have an inspection every year. So sometimes it's all right to keep to 4. Not that you should be scared of the licensing, I'm just saying sometimes it's all right to stay under the radar and get 4, give it social housing. But yeah, guys, every property I've done, and I regret some properties where I could have made it HMO before Article 4 and I didn't just because of speed. And yes, the rents have gone up, but again, I'm getting 1,500 where I'd be getting 3k as a HMO. So that's why I buy HMOs. The management, don't worry too much about. We could talk you through how to manage it. We have a specific checklist for management and you can apply that to every property. And where you've got a property which is not a HMO, you can sometimes make it a HMO. Give it social housing, for example. So guys, I just wanted to go through that in this video and literally say that HMOs will change your life. Now, another thing I've seen on one of my friend's YouTube channels, I did a podcast with him this year, someone commented that he's done all that work to make a HMO, got his money out, he's getting rent, 2k a month. But the guy commented that, you did all that work, I bought Bitcoin, sat on my arse, and made 100k. You're missing the point there about HMOs. 100k in your bank is going to deflate in an inflationary environment. Remember, Elon Musk said inflation is a tax. But not only that, it's going to disappear. If you've got 2k a month from a HMO or after cost, 2k a month, I think that one was making it. That's way better, especially if you're younger, than having 100k in your bank, because it's going to pay you for the rest of your life. 100k isn't going to pay you for the rest of your life. And the thing is as well with HMOs is that the room rates will go up over inflation every time you relet. So if you relet that in 6 months and inflation's, I don't know, 0.25% in that 6 months, the rent might go up by 0.50%. Whereas 100k in the bank, every month or every year is going down, your purchasing power is going down, but also you're going to spend it. So it's going to disappear. Whereas if you're 25 or 28 and you've got 2k a month and you've got the property going up in value, the HMO, which you can tap into remortgage in a few years, and you're getting solid 2k a month, I would prefer that. And to be quite frank, 100k is 2 HMOs. So you'd be on 4k a month. So that's how it works, guys. And when you're pulling money back out, you use that money to go again. It's so much better to have HMOs and money in the bank. Yes, you're going to have a few things to do with your management, etc. But it's so worth it, guys. So if you want to have more knowledge about HMOs, you click yes in the comments, show you what we're buying. As I said, it's not always HMOs which we're buying. Sometimes we get groups of students who are related, but they go in on HMO rates and they take the whole property, for example, or family. But it's a good benchmark and it's a good place to be at to have at least a few or a handful of HMOs in your portfolio. And then you can start, you know, you're making 10k a month sometimes, then you can buy an all money out single let, which I do with 20k, 2 months rent, and just have that making 300 quid a month, but you've got the property and you've got all your money back, for example. Then it's just playing with money, it's just money games then, guys. But to get in that position where you're playing money games, you do need HMOs. And going back to the Bitcoin comment, last month, I don't know if you've been following my socials, but I put 50 to 100k, a few months rent on Bitcoin, and yes, I made decent money on it, but that money goes back into HMOs because that's the only asset which can pay me every month. And my expenditures monthly, I go on holidays every month, I have cars, I have accept bills like everybody else, and your expenditures monthly. So why wouldn't you invest 50k to make 2k a month, for example? So that's the way I see it, guys. Let me know in the comments of what you prefer, if you're staying away from HMOs, if you want a HMO, and I'll see you on the next video. Let's get it.